Top 10 Underrated Manhwa or Manhua, which is literally just best to read. You might never know how some of the manhwas you read can be amazingly good, but then a bright question might strike you. Why was this much of a good manhwa so hard to discover after all it was a good read? Therefore, bringing you guys today is some of the top 10 unrated manhwa or manhua, which is literally just best to read. Now without hosting any further delays, let's jump straight right to the video. Starting off with today's number 10, World's Best Assassin. Here, the story revolves around Li Guan, whose sister is tragically killed by a member of the Murim alliance. He finally succeeds in taking revenge but ends up in a prison. After 6 years, he is released from the prison after making a promise that he will work for the Murim alliance. He is given techniques of the previous demonic cult leader and he adapts quickly to those techniques and grinds his way to become the best assassin in the Murim alliance. The story of this manhwa is really good. The first few chapters are very fast-paced, but later on, the pacing stabilizes. It starts off with a tragedy, so be on alert for that. Characters are written very well and give a proper feeling of battle-hardened people. The art might not completely amaze you, but it is still decent. Fight scenes are also portrayed very well. This is a must-try for hardcore Murim manhwa fans. Normal readers may not find it that interesting because there is too much text and information about the Murim world in it, which can get boring for casual readers, but overall a very good read. Number 9. That Knight Gunther. Here is another really good manhwa that I believe you should definitely add to your reading list. Dead Knight Gunther is an action-packed fantasy manhwa that will surely entertain you. The story here begins with the war that breaks out between the vampires and the humans, and obviously, the vampire here had the upper hand and won against the human race. And mankind clearly sought revenge and started plotting counterattacks in a holy land that has not yet been invaded named Bahal, where they successfully created an immortal corpse knight, Gunther. And this is how the story further progresses, and I strongly recommend getting your interest in this one as it is clearly worth it. Number 8. Cursed Manager's Regression. Our MC, who also happens to be the manager of the Bongsan group and also a normie who was also part of a support team for Transcendence, who seems to fight under supernatural powers. Kim Mujin, whose role as an MC might not be quite interesting as his role as a waste slave was to clean up the site after the above-mentioned Transcendence went around creating mess after breaking everything. The thing he adored the most was mostly his weekends like we all do. But then, the unexpected happens when the fight between him and the Transcendence ends up taking his life. All when he thought his life was over, but he then wakes up and realizes he had regressed to the year 2002, where he still didn't have any power, but he now possessed a curse. I know, right? He's having all sorts of bad luck, but to further read how he makes the most out of it. And I suggest you also get a read on this. Overall, a really good manhwa. Number 7. The Monstrous Gui. The story of this manhwa lies between 3 childhood friends, Seunghwa, Dohee, and Sankim. They are portrayed as a really good friend ever since their childhood in the story. Even after they have grown up and entered high school, they were still said to be close to each other. But then one day, the disappearance of Sankim due to the sudden appearance of some creature called the Gui. As they move forward in search of their friend, they also come up with some hideous secrets. About the question lies, will they be able to find their friend Sankim? I mean, you have to read it to find the answer. This manhwa has the superpowers that look a little bit similar to JoJo's stance. The main character has more of a cool guy type personality. Side characters are also written pretty well. The art is also good and there are a decent amount of fight scenes. The overall story of this manhwa is good and I will of course recommend you to read this one too. Number 6. Existence. Coming up on our 6th number is a super potential holding manga, Existence, where our main character happens to reincarnate in many life forms. Someday it was an ant, and the other day it was a dinosaur, but his last incarnation was of a being that had experienced tens of thousands of lives. At last, he was now born as a human with the power of every single life form he had ever been. Imagine someone with this power. Then one day he ends up questioning himself. Why did he ever exist with such power if it's to eradicate mankind? Personally speaking, this manhwa is awesome. It's different from the others. I haven't seen this type of story before. The art is super. Fantastic story. It makes you want to read it to see what will happen next. Moving on to our number 5, King Game. An action-packed suspense story of a boy who obtains absolute authority. The story centers around a boy named Wang Chome, who spends his high school days enduring unjust violent treatment. Being informed of his isolated brother's passing away, he receives his phone and confronts the truth about his brother. He learns that his brother is the leader of a notorious ring called the Emperor's Division. Upon learning that, he decides to impersonate his brother and take control of the division by passing judgments on its comes. And so the king's game that must be never revealed begins. I would say the art style of this manhwa is really interesting and will keep you hooked. Also, the story is well written and not rushed, therefore I will suggest you read this one as you will surely enjoy reading this one as well. Number 4. Not Even Bones. Not Even Bones sounded fresh and exciting from the beginning. Nita dissects supernaturals that her mom kills and sells the body parts online. While I thought that would make a great story. Instead, Nita winds up on a supernatural black market herself. Most of the time, not reading an entire blurb leads to nice plot surprises, but not so much in this case. It was still interesting, but not at all what I expected. Not Even Bones was a super fast read. I found that I whipped right through it, but not a lot actually happened in this novel. There was a lot of relationship building, but not a lot of action that you would expect in a fast-paced manhwa like this one. There wound up being a bit of an enemy to lovers or friends that was its own weird version of Stockholm Syndrome. Overall, it was a good, light and fast original manhwa novel. I loved the morally grey characters and the whole idea of the manhwa. If you're looking for a quick, fresh fantasy to read, this is perfect. But if you are looking for an intricate plot and deep characters, then I would skip this one. It was a good read. Even though her mom was a sociopath, I thought she was kind of cool and I recommend it if you are into the thriller genre. Number 3. Leveling Up by Only Eating. Now coming to our third in our today's list, we have Leveling Up by Only Eating. This manhwa is amazing. It is totally one of those stories where a gamer picks a lame profession in the game, but he then turns out to be totally OP and badass. Our MC has an eating disorder, causing him to be deathly obsessed, so he turns to VR, where he can have the taste and sensation of eating without any of the calories. Everyone laughs at him because food dictates how he plays the game. But he ends up becoming super strong and unlocking all these rare quests and skills. Our MC is wholesome, the art style is amazing, and the story is funny. So what could you ask for more? There is food and it's funny. I don't see how you could not love it. Perfect for someone who mostly enjoys food and games. I also think the story is unique. It's not often that you see one of these MCs playing a game for reasons other than money and fun. Well, it's possible that I just haven't read enough similar stories to tell. The art makes the food look really good, and good food is the main factor of any good art. The main character and the NPCs are awesome, and that's all that really matters. Great story. I recommend this to people who like the legendary Moonlight Sculptor or Toaru Osan no VR MMO Katsudoki. Number 2. My school life pretending to be a worthless person. So far, art, characters, and the story is good. But the protagonist is a typical MC who doesn't want to use his strength but wants to continue being ridiculed, abused, and beaten by everyone all the time. MC hides his abilities. His main objective of hiding his abilities is because it's a murderous skill and can become harmful, so decided on hiding it till he couldn't anymore and wanted to be treated well by others. Simply speaking, this manhwa is basically meant for binge read. because you could see MC has an ability that he genuinely can show to others, due to which we get to see the pathetic side of MC every time, which obviously is frustrating. But to tackle that, author has introduced FMC early in the series as his closest friend who is strong and cool, and a sunbae who suspects his F-rank abilities. The overall world buildings of this manhwa is unique in some ways. Some of the characters can be a little bit childish sometimes. Well, it makes sense since they are high schoolers. The art of this manhwa is good, but this manhwa lacks action scenes sometimes. Give this a try if you want a modern fantasy manhwa set in a high school. And finally, number 1. Who killed the Murim Lord? And finally, on our today's number 1 list, we have Who Killed the Murim Lord. Honestly speaking, this manhwa really holds the potential to stand out against many good manhwas you might have possibly read. The story here sets with our MC who was killing people for commission like an assassin ever since he was 11 years. And then, the death of the Murim Lord raised the question of who killed the Murim Lord, where not just only Hyoshin Woo becomes a suspect in the murder of the leader of the Murim, but his life is threatened by the Murims, who are aiming for the absolute undefeated King of Heaven. It does not just sound good, but the manhwa is actually good. If you give your time to this manhwa, I'm sure that you will totally enjoy this one. And personally, I feel that this manhwa is also heavily unrated. So make sure you go and check this manhwa too. And there you go. We conclude our today's list with that. But before you leave, make sure you leave with a thumbs up to the video. We really work hard for bringing content for you guys. Therefore, a like to the video will be really motivating. If you have any sorts of queries or suggestions, the comment section is always open too. Also, make sure that you are subscribed to us so you won't be missing any of our future updates, as we ensure to bring more quality content in the future times. Till another one, see ya and goodbye.